Hi everyone. Today I'm doing part 2, conditionals mixed and without if. Very important because we don't do grammar just for exams. We also do it for understanding how to speak, how to write better. And these are, of course, part of every major examination that you're likely to do, starting with your board exams. So you are not likely to be asked just your 4 conditionals. You're also going to be asked other conditionals in your examinations. So pay attention. I'm Usha Pandit, your Mindsprings English teacher. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, make sure you do. Press that bell notification, share my video, give me a like, and tell me your comments and reactions on this one. So let's start right away. So let's do a quick revision. So the 4 types of conditionals that we talked about last time in detail. So go and take a look at it if you haven't. A summary, the 4 types are 0, 1, 2, and 3. These are your 4 conditionals. They express real and unreal situations and sometimes imaginary and impossible situations. So they do all this. 0 conditional is present tense in the if clause and present tense in the main clause. We also said that they were complex sentences, if clauses are all subordinate, etc. So if a child is hungry, it cries for milk. Is and cries both present tense. First conditional is present and future, which is commonly used when we predict logical stuff or real stuff. So if we are late, we will get a taxi to go home. It's a logical thing. If we are late, what do? We will get a taxi, future. So present and future. Second conditional is simple past and would plus infinitive verb or V1, which is your like to go, sing, dance, etc. The basic verb. That's what we are doing with the second conditional. Now, the second conditional is an unreal conditional. If he found it hard, I would help him. So the past, if he found it hard in the past is gone. So it has not happened, and therefore I would help him. Again, that is unreal. There's no question of helping him because the past is gone and we don't know whether he's found it hard or not, perhaps not. So therefore it is unreal. The third conditional is the past perfect and the would have plus past participle or V3. If they had caught the thief, they would have taken him to jail. This is even more unreal. This is impossible. Had taken, had found, had caught, and all are not even the past, beyond the past, and therefore it has definitely not happened, and definitely in the future nobody is going to take him to jail because he's never been caught. Unreal conditional. These are our 4 most basic conditionals, and these conditionals are on which we base all our talk of conditionals is based on these 4 basic conditionals. And just remember, these are the tenses. So it's like a prescription. Okay. But you know, when you use language, it's a living language. You don't always follow these rules 100%. Sometimes you have to mix stuff. So let's also look at why we mix stuff. So why mix conditionals? Now, when you've got these 4 conditionals, why don't you just use them? No, we go and mix them. And I'll tell you why. Because we live in a flow of time. So the past is gone, the present is now, and the future has not come yet. But you know, we human beings, we are never happy. We are always restless. So we remember the past. And we start thinking about it and saying, we should have done this, we should have done that. What if we had done this? What if we had done that? We constantly, some people are always living in the past, isn't it? We know that. And some people live in the present, which is good, because then you are doing things in the present. People say you must live in the present. And then you imagine the future. Now, you are not happy living in the present and working. You're also thinking that if I work for 4 years, what will happen to me? Nobody knows the future, but we still think about the future and we still talk about the future. This is where all these mixed conditionals need to come. We also use conditionals to express request. We use it to reprimand people, to scold them, to order them around, to request things, to suggest regret. Oh, we should have done that. Or relief. Oh, thank God I did something. Or result. This is what is going to happen to you if you don't do that. So parents are constantly telling their children this. What will be the result if you don't study? Requirement, remedy, restraint. See, so many R words. For all of these things, we are constantly talking about time and mixing the past, present, and future together. They refer to our thoughts, behaviors, actions, decisions, achievement, losses, chances denied, all kinds of things. Mind is a monkey, constantly thinking. So mixed conditionals have three components when we mix time. First is the tense, simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. We noticed in our first 4 basic conditionals that tense is very important. What were the rules of those 4? Present, present, past, present, future, past and would plus V1, past perfect and would have plus V3. This was the 4 tenses of those 4 conditionals, and those were very important. So tense is important in a conditional. But in mixed conditionals, it is also time. Time is important because, as I told you, we are thinking about the past and we are thinking about the present and we are thinking about the future and we are expressing all these ideas. So therefore, time is very important. And then context is important. What is the meaning? So when we say something, we are not just looking at the present tense or the future tense and saying we are talking about the future. Sometimes you're using the future tense, but you're talking about the present. And your intentions may be something about something in the past. These also can happen. Look at the complication. It's not a complication of grammar, it's a complication of the human being, of the human mind. Okay, so let's not curse grammar. But a mixed conditional will have a context, will have a meaning and intention attached to what you say. So beyond the tense and beyond the time, you have to start looking at why is this person saying this? What is the meaning? For example, if I worked harder at school, I would have a better job now. Suppose if I say, this is very common, isn't it? If I worked harder at school, I would have a better job now. Lots of people say this. What does it mean? What is the tense in this? You will find that there is a past perfect tense and a would plus infinitive. What have we done? We've mixed that third and second conditional. What should it normally be? If you use the past perfect tense, then you would have used would have plus V3. What have we used here? We have used would plus V1. So we have mixed 2 of them, we have taken and mixed 2 parts together. That's what we have done for the tenses. We mix the tenses up. What has happened to the time? That if clause, if I had worked harder, clearly we're talking about the past, no? If I had worked harder means I'm not talking about now and I'm not talking about the future. I'm talking about something that happened if I had worked in the past. Clearly in the past, long back past. So time in the if clause is in the past. And the main clause, I would have a better job now. I'm talking about now, which is the present time, not the present tense. What is the tense there? Would plus have. It's a modal tense, but here we are talking about the present time. We are not using the present tense to talk about present time. That's the complication. And the context, what is the whole meaning? So if you take that whole sentence, what exactly am I expressing? I'm expressing remorse, regret. If I had worked harder, I would have had a, I'm expressing, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't work harder. I'm expressing regret. I should have. That's what I'm saying. So you see the mix of tenses in all this. Now, guys, if you say, I'm going to learn grammar and then I'm going to talk like this, you will never be able to do it. You have to learn to pick up the language and speak it. So if I'd worked harder, I would have a better job. If I had learned to drive, I would have driven a car now. You need to start doing this. You need to start saying the sentences in your head, making up the context and practicing it. This is the best way. Okay? And then the grammar will automatically come. So now I've told you there are those three components: time, tense, and context. Just remember this. Complications with time and tense. I'm going to show you how time and tense are not the same, and I'm going to use the future tense for this. It's the best tense to use to show you how time and tense are not the same. It would have been so simple if we could talk about the past tense only using past tense or future only using future tense. But it's not like that. See, look at this. You must not confuse time and tense. Time can be expressed in various tenses. So the future tense can be expressed in all these tenses. Future time using the present tense. Suppose I say we sail tomorrow. I'm using a simple present tense, but I'm talking about tomorrow, future. I'm going tomorrow. I'm using the present continuous tense, but I'm talking about future, tomorrow. Present, present continuous. Future time using past tenses. I was going to tell him later. Was going is a past continuous tense. I was going to tell him later. Later is future. They were having guests that evening. Were having also is past continuous. When? That evening, future. So past continuous tense is used to express the future event. Future time in future tense, which is common, which is normal, isn't it? So if you say, I will go tomorrow, simple future tense. Tomorrow, this time, we will be sipping, future continuous tense. Also, I can talk about the future. Next year, we will have finished the exams, future perfect tense. Tomorrow, we will be signing. We will have been signing, future perfect continuous tense. All of these guys are normal because they are future tenses. But those present and past tenses also express the future time. And then, of course, the modal possibility. Possibility is always in the future, isn't it? They knew the thief would never come back. What are we talking about? Future. Would never come back is a modal tense of possibility, and therefore future time. So future time is expressed with all kinds of tenses. Future time is expressed with all sorts of tenses. Complication. Now that we've understood that time and tense are not related, we have got enough proof here. Let us carry on. So the mixed conditionals have some features. Okay. When we mix those four conditionals, we just saw how third and second we mixed. Conditionals are named by tenses, not time. So why do we say past conditional, zero conditional? We are actually talking about the tenses, present plus present, past plus would plus in B1, etc. We are talking about tenses when we are naming conditionals. When we mix these times together, then the tenses do not fall into the traditional pattern. So in a mixed tense, you will not get this traditional four tenses. You will not get it. You will get it all mixed up. We do this in particular contexts to express certain meanings or intentions. Like we just saw regret, we saw possibility. You will have, if you have an intention, you will have to use something like this in order to express that intention. That's why we use mixed conditionals. A change of tense will change the meaning or intention, especially when modals are changed. As we know, modals are all about intention. They show possibility and capability, and they show obligation, and they show regret, and they show request, all sorts of things, determination. So they are full of intention. So if you change any modal, the intention will change in the sentence. Just remember this. That is why these are called mixed conditionals. They don't follow the pattern of those original 4. That's all. All mixed conditionals deal. Now, this is another important part. All mixed conditionals deal with hypothetical or imaginary past. So all of them are sitting in that second and third unreal, impossible mode. They are never used for expressing facts, and they are never used for expressing the real possibilities. Always hypothetical, always imaginary. And hence, the present is also imaginary. So now, whenever you are talking about anything in the past, which is gone and which has not happened, anything that you are then predicting as a result for the present is going to be false. Because the past is false. So the present is false. The future is false. But why do we do this? We do this because we enjoy it. We enjoy thinking about the future. We enjoy fantasizing and dreaming. And sometimes we like to look back and regret, oh, I should not have done that. Oh, I should have done this. We love to do this. That's why we need these mixed conditionals. We are imagining the past, present, and future. So we have different times in the same sentence. When we mix conditionals, it is generally the second and third conditional that we mix, because both of them are unreal. Okay. The second and third conditional verb mix. Second conditional is were and would be. If I were rich, I would be famous. That's my second conditional. Would plus be, V1. The third conditional is had been past perfect and would have plus past participle been. If I had been rich, I would have been famous. See, both are imaginary, no? If I were rich, I would be famous. And if I had been rich, I would have been famous. Both not possible. Just imagining. In mixed conditionals, we do a mix. So if you look at my number 1 and number 2, my second conditional is sitting in that number 1, and the second verb pair that I have given you is the third conditional. And I have mixed it. See that arrows, those are mixed. Were and would have been, had been and would be, which is not the traditional way. This means we are talking about, in the first one, we are talking about a hypothetical condition in the past. If I were is a hypothetical. Hypothetical means imaginary in the past. And a hypothetical would be is also hypothetical in the present. If I were a rich man, I would have been famous. So I'm taking that would have been from there and saying would have been famous now. That's what I mean. If he learned French in the past, he would have worked for the Alliance. Neither did he learn French, nor is he working for the Alliance. Both are false, both are just imaginary. If you paid attention in the past, you would have understood conditionals now. Both are wrong because it didn't happen. In the second one, we've got had been, which is the past perfect, isn't it? So the hypothetical condition in the present would have been, I would have been rich in the condition is in the present. To the hypothetical past result, if I had been, I would have been. Both are false. If you're getting mixed up, confused, don't worry about it. Both of them are false. Both of them are imaginary. Both of them are fantasy. All that you need to remember when you say mixed conditional, don't get all excited. It's just that second and third conditional, the pairs that are there, they have got crossed. That's all. But the meaning is all hypothetical. Whether you want past perfect or past, it's not done. And whether you use would plus be or would have been, it is still false. This is all you need to remember. Examples, if I were a rich man, I never was, I would own this mansion. Do you own the mansion? No. Are you a rich man? No. Then why say that? But we say those things. If he hadn't left, but we did, we would be together now. That husband hadn't left long back, he left her. She's saying we would be together now. Both are false. If he had taken his pills, he was sick. If he had taken his pills, he would not be ill now. But he is ill now and he didn't take his pills. So this is what mixed conditionals are. Second and third conditional mix. Don't worry about it. Both are false. And it's just a way people talk. Mixed conditionals, exceptions. Now let's come to these. The problem with English is that for every rule, you will have some horrible exceptions. So let's look at the exceptions. So conditionals using present plus present. So normally what do we say? That zero conditional. If water freezes, it turns to ice. Water freezes, present tense, all the present and present tense, if you have, they're always about scientific facts, historic facts. We did all this in that part one. Go and take a look at it. But that is not always true. There are exceptions. For example, if I say, if you finish this one, you can do another. So I'm giving you a puzzle and telling you, if you finish this one, you can do another one. There's nothing, no fact, true fact in that. And what is my intention there? Two present tenses, but what's my intention? I'm saying if you finish this one, I'll give you one more. It's just a possibility. It's just a plan. I'm telling the child, if you finish this drawing, I'll give you another one. There's no true fact in it. So it's an exception. If I can't use my calculator, how can I do such a complicated sum? This is a query. Or this is even a complaint. If I can't use, how can I do? This is almost like somebody fighting with you, isn't it? How can I do? Asking you an impudent question. If I can't use present tense, how can I do present tense? But it has got nothing to do with scientific facts or true facts or general historic facts or anything. If he calls anyone, let me know immediately. Now, this is like a warning, or this is like a boss telling a secretary, if he calls anyone, let me know immediately. It's like an order. It's got nothing to do with facts, but it's present tense, present tense. Exception. Now, if you get fill in the blanks for this in the examination, and if you use that rule, and you say present and present is historic fact, so I'm not going to put this, you'll get it wrong because it's an exception. Conditionals using other than would in the result clause. If you didn't do, past time, didn't do is past tense, past time. If you didn't do or haven't done, which is present perfect, your homework. We say this, if you didn't do your homework, if you haven't done your homework, the tenses are different, but the meaning is the same. Something has been neglected in the past. You ought to be detained. What tense are we? None of the traditional tenses, see, exceptions. You ought to be detained is like a probability or an obligation. You ought to be in the future, you ought to be detained. Future time and you ought to be, which means it is obligatory on the part of the school or it is, you're going to be punished. You ought to be. That means you don't deserve any mercy. That's the intention. Or I could say you could be detained. Now, I don't know, I'm not sure. You could be detained, which means you better call up your mother. Or I could say you should be detained. That is an obligation. That means you deserve it. You should be detained. So you see, when I change that modal, the intention will keep changing. But the time can be a past condition in the past time, or it can be a present perfect tense, which is talking about haven't done your homework and the problem is still continuing now. Something that you didn't do in the past is still going on now. Present perfect. You know what? Go through these videos very slowly and check it out. I am not for a minute saying that you should work out all these things in grammar. I'm saying pick up the language and say it many times. So if you didn't do your homework, if you didn't do so many things that we don't do, if you didn't buy the vegetables, if you haven't bought the vegetables, you ought to go hungry. Say that, no? Say it many times in different contexts, and that sentence will become yours. And you will, but you know in your head it's an exception. It does not fit into the 4 conditionals. Present tense in the if clause and modals in the main clause. If you have any doubts, this is present tense. You must ask. Compulsion, must. If you take the vaccine, present tense, it might help. Normally in that present tense in the if clause, what will you get in this other result clause? You will have a future. You would have said, if you take the vaccine, it will help you. This is your first conditional, present and future. But we have changed it to a modal, it might help. We have made it a possibility. If the police catch you, present tense, not you will get, which would have been first conditional, but you may get. Possibility, may get, we are not sure. If you are not careful, you could have an accident, again possibility. So present and future, which should have been first conditional, and all those 4 should have had a will. We don't have a will, we have got other modals, must, might, may, could. And the intention keeps changing. So, okay. So let's look at expressing condition without if. These are often, now what happens is you don't always need an if to express a condition. There are many ways of saying the same thing in English. So expressing condition without if. These are often given as fill in the blanks or multiple choices in the exam. We express conditional with initial words like provided that, only if, providing that, when, suppose, in case, but for, should, unless, had, otherwise, then, if not, as long as, what if, one more such. So many. All are expressing some sort of condition. Some of these mean if and some of these mean if not. So let us just look at some examples. If the letter arrives in my absence, will you forward it to my new address? So I can ask this. If the letter, suppose this is a sentence. It's a normal if sentence. If the letter arrives, present tense, will you forward it? It's a question that we are asking, but this will forward is your first conditional. Normal sentence. And they will give you in brackets, should. Start with should or use should. Something like this, do as directed question. Should the letter arrive in my absence? Now, sometimes what they do is, they don't tell you the word, they give you a blank. And this actually came in one of the examination CBSE papers, I think, a couple of years ago. Dash the letter arrive in my absence. And people wrote all kinds of things and they were fighting because they did not, if the letter arrived, they did if there. If is wrong because see that verb arrives. If the letter arrives, there's no S there. So the answer was, should the letter arrive in my absence, Would you forward it to my new address? See that would, it's not will you forward it, it's would you forward it. It's a request. So they'll give you stuff like this. This actually came in one of the papers. That's why I put it in. That's why I decided to do this, because you can get these fill in the blanks. So should the letter arrive in my absence, would you forward it? Providing that or provided that both are okay, we have your new address, we can forward the letter. That is again an if, isn't it? It's a condition. If we don't have your address, how can we send it to you? So providing that we have, that is if we have, that is what you are saying. If we have, or providing that, or provided that, or provided we have, all are correct. We can forward it to your, see that modal keeps changing. We can, that is, we have the ability to send it. If you say we would send forward, it means it's kind of strange. We never say provided that we have a we would. We would means you don't know yourself, your own mind. Would becomes possibility. I can't say we would. Error correction, you will get this. Would. It's wrong. We can. Which means we are able to, if we have. If you say we would, it's nonsense. We would forward means what? Lots of people say that if you attend this workshop, you would learn. It's bad because you would learn means that person who's announcing the workshop is not sure whether you learn or not. That's what it means. Only if we have your new address, see that only if we have your new address, we can be forward. Unless means if not. Unless we have your new address, that is if we do not have your new address, we will not be able to forward it. So unless means if not. Suppose the letter arrives in your absence, we will forward it. Suppose is also a condition. I've given you the same sentence so that you can see how no matter which thing I start with, you will be able to do the same idea with all of these initial starting words. So you have suppose. The next one is but. But for the new address, you need to give us, we can forward the letter. But only, that is only if. But for the new address, you need to give us, we can forward the letter. That's the only thing left, but for. Or you could even say, but for the new address, we would not have been able to send you your letter. But for the means without, that is what you mean by but. Without the new address, we could not have sent you. Should the letter arrive? I think we've already done that. If not for the new address, that's what I meant. But for the new, or if not for the new address, we would not be able to send you. You must give us your new address. Otherwise, this otherwise is also a condition. Otherwise, we will not be able to. As long as we have the new address, we can send it to you. See? Had you given us the new address, if you had given, that is what you mean. If you had given, if has been taken out and you had has changed to had you. Had you given us the new address, we could have forwarded to you. In case the letter arrives in your absence, we could forward it to you. If we have your new address, or we could forward it to your new address in case the letter arrives. Once the letter arrives, we can forward it to your new address. So you have several ways of saying the same thing. 14, more. On condition that you give us your new address, we can forward it to you. Only on condition. If you don't give it to us, we can't send it to you. When we have your new address, see the when clause. It's interesting how you have a when clause there. When we have your new address, we will forward it to you. What you're trying to say is until then, we cannot do it. If you don't give it to us, we cannot send it. That if is constantly hovering in all these sentences. Except for your new address, we have everything we need to send it to you. But we don't have. And if we don't get it, we can't send it to you. Now you have those 2 marks there. Basically, you're saying leave your new address. That is, if you leave, that if you has been dropped. And what have we said? Leave your new address and we will send it. If you has been dropped. That's where I put a double line. Bring me your address, then I will send you. This is also an if condition. One more such slip and you will be dismissed. What you're saying is if you make, that has been dropped. One more such slip and you will be dismissed. What if we find the treasure? We could pay off the debt. What if? Again, a conditional idea there, isn't it? If we find, we could pay off. That's what you're basically saying. And you're saying, what if you're imagining? Supposing someone else did it, how could we know? If someone else did it, how could we know? All these sentences can be rewritten with if. What I'm trying to show you is that you can use a conditional without using if. Study it carefully, say it many times, say it in many contexts, and I'm telling you, your English will become superb. Because it's very important to practice these structures. They're very good structures, actually. I've given you some exercises for practice. I want you to underline the verb and say what kind of conditionals they are. The following are, and what kind of mixed conditionals they are. And the answers I will put in the description box. Some more for practice. Fill in the blanks with the best option. Answers are in the description box. So I've given you 2 sets, lots of exercises to do at the end of this. Watch this video several times because it's not an easy one. However, it's a very useful one. And I want you to do a lot of speaking practice and use some of these structures in your writing, because that is what makes your English so very impressive. Not those 4 basic conditionals. 4 basic conditionals are good to start conditionals, but this is where the muscle of the language is sitting. So I don't want you to neglect it. And guys, thank you for watching. Make sure that you go to our website and you take a look at my grammar books. So until we meet again, keep smiling.